Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nala.
And I'm Faith.
And this is the Siren's Den breakdown theories and things you may have overlooked for the pilot of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
So, this is your official spoiler warning.
Right off the heels of our beloved WandaVision, Marvel has once again graced us with content in this ever-flowing river. I'm so happy that we have just classic MCU type content again. We got that with, the last few episodes of WandaVision, and now, fully transitioning to I was like, this is a movie, and I love it because Sam and Bucky definitely are two dope side characters that I'm so glad got their own spinoff.
Yeah, it really feels like just going back to classic Marvel. It definitely feels like Winter Soldier and Civil War. It has kind of that cinematic feel to it. It kind of has that same kind of energy and drive. And of course, the two greatest side characters from that part of Marvel.
Absolutely. Well, take it away, Faith.
All right. So we start our episode with this gorgeous shot of Sam in a tux, kind of reflecting on the last conversation that he had with Steve. He is looking at the shield, and it really just kind of sets up this is what he's going to be struggling with. This is going to be his character journey. He was handed off this legacy from Captain America, as we all remember from Endgame. And he doesn't feel that he is up to it or worthy of it. And I think to start the show off on just that quiet moment that just really reflects that side of his character and just kind of announces this is what his journey is going to be. I thought that was really cool. I think that was just a really nice, somber way to jump back into classic Marvel action.
I love this scene because it already gives us so much right off the bat. It puts into perspective how heavy this weight is currently being put on Sam. And I like what they say because, he tells Steve that he feels like it's someone else's. And Steve tells him it isn't because the shield is not belonging to one person. It is the concept of Captain America. It's like Mjolnir. And it's like whoever is worthy of it is going to be the one to wield it.
Yeah.
And he just it's so sad because he doesn't feel worthy. He doesn't think that he's going to be able to carry on that legacy.
Yeah. I mean, especially think about where Sam is coming from. He's what, as we remember, he got blipped. Or was he a blip? Yeah, he was a blip.
Mm-hmm. He was.
So from his perspective, he was fighting this world-ending battle. Then he came back. I don't know because they had that big fight in Endgame, and did they like break down to all the different warriors? By the way, it's been 5 years, or was that kind of a briefed after the fact? Either way, super traumatic. That's a lot going on. Then your best friend and kind of like the person who's been kind of your anchor throughout all this superhero stuff. He's supposed to come back in 5 seconds, and he does as an ancient old man. And kind of he lost that friendship as well. So in a way, Sam has kind of lost a lot of who he was over the past however many years he was working with Captain America, and just to be handed the legacy of, oh, by the way, this is you now. When he failed, when he was fighting to prevent the blip from happening, that failed ultimately. And then the fight that they had, Tony Stark died. They had all this loss still, even though they were successful. Like to be coming off the heels of that and being told, oh, by the way, you are the symbol of hope now.
Marvel honestly is just saying, hey, all our characters have some deep trauma that they need to figure out because that's what this is too.
But these guys don't have chaos magic. Luckily, that's
true. Ooh, yikes.
So that kind of brings us into, again, some classic Marvel action. It is Sam. He's about to go off on a mission. A captain has been kidnapped by an organization known as LAF. He's got to fly in and save them. There is a airspace border he has to worry about. Those are the stakes that are set up. And it really just kind of goes into this really awesome air battle between Sam and our favorite French pirate from 10 years ago, Bartrek the Leaper.
Okay, really fast. Where is he from?
He was that guy that Captain America fought against at the very beginning of Winter Soldier, where there's one of our shield guys on this boat that was taken captive, and there's information there, and you gotta rescue the
Oh,
hostages.
they were in a
Uh,
boat, not
yeah,
a plane.
yeah, they were in a boat.
Everything makes sense now, for
Captain
sure.
America just came in there and absolutely swept. There was not even an issue.
Mhm.
Contrasted to this, same kind of opening, same kind of premise. These people have taken hostages. He's got to go in and rescue them, except it doesn't go as smoothly as it did for Cap in Captain and the Winter Soldier. Sam struggles with this fight a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, the plane starts to go down. It's a dope ass action sequence, but unfortunately, it does not bode well for the situation as the plane is going down.
Yeah.
Then
So, yeah. I think it was just a really fun action sequence. It was, especially, again, we talk about how it's classic Marvel coming off of the heels of WandaVision, which was just definitely not classic Marvel, but it was just one of those really well coordinated edge of your seat action sequences. They start off on the plane. Everyone like parachutes out in like these squirrel shoots, and Sam's got to go after them, and so that was cool. I also, the how they shot these action sequences, I thought were really, really, really cool. They just felt really dynamic. I think they might have actually gone skydiving while they were doing some of these, because there's no
Mhm.
way that some of these were green screen. Like I'm really excited to see because in WandaVision we got our behind the scenes how they did it. I'm really excited, particularly for this scene, especially because they go in from these squirrel suits and Sam chasing on them with his Falcon into your classic Independence Day canyon flight sequence.
Yeah, this was so much fun to see. I appreciate Marvel for giving us fights in conceivably like every type of location, including some dope sky fights. With their base jumping suits, I was like, how are you going to take down Falcon with his wings and you're just in your little base jumping suits? But
Yeah,
this sequence made me, but the thing about that I really appreciated about this fight scene was how different his fly fighting technique is from Iron Man's and some other heroes that can fly, because his is more about agility, whereas Iron Man is all about the rocket launchers and the power. He has to fly like a falcon. He has to make these sharp turns, go under stuff, make sure he doesn't get sideswiped by something, and it's a lot. I can't imagine being in his shoes and having to make all those split second decisions all the time with your wings, with how they operate. Love
yeah.
him.
And one thing kind of bouncing off of that I think the sequence did really, really well is that they showed off, again, Sam being kind of a more agile fighter. He's not a heavy hitter, but he's fast. And they show some of the benefits of that and how that can like really aid him and give him an advantage, but they also show how that can leave him seriously outmatched and vulnerable. One of the things, again, kind of contrasting him from Captain America, is when Captain America went up against these guys, he swept, and Sam is struggling with them. And he's struggling with them because these guys are just as fast and just as agile. And even though they don't have the wings, that doesn't really matter. And so Sam's really struggling to keep up with them. And to prevent the MacGuffin helicopter from going into Libyan airspace, which would break a treaty. That's the thing that they keep telling us throughout the whole thing to remind us the bigger stakes of this. And then they just kind of, one thing that cracked me up though is how many, because they always had these helicopters on standby. Like it felt like every time Sam destroyed one of the villain helicopters, they'd bail out of that one and into a new one. And it
Yeah.
like 4 different times. It's like, oh, they're in the helicopter. He almost has the hostage. Oh, nope, they got him back. They're jumping into a new helicopter. That did kind of crack me up how
Like
many
hopping taxis.
uh it looked cool though.
No, I loved
That's not
when
a knock against it.
they would like fly in like effortlessly and just land inside the helicopters. So graceful. Okay, you also have to remember that, Cap he is a super soldier. Like he did take a serum. he was like enhanced to be like to have more stamina. I'm pretty sure Falcons I would be exhausted. Having just done all that as a regular person, I would be exhausted. So leave my boy Sam alone. He's trying his best.
I also do appreciate the fact that the action sequence ended with just Sam at full speed on his wings, body slamming the hostage out of the helicopter.
Loved that. Absolutely
Uh,
something he would do.
yeah, just and also it's in his style. It kind of shows even at the end it was a rough getting there, but he did it. But it really just kind of tells us how out of his league he is in this greater symbol of heroism role.
So another part of this scene that I want to talk about is his Sam's new little sidekick, who is a soldier named Joaquin Torres, and he's adorable. He's like totally, fanboying over what's happening. And by the end, when Falcon completes his mission with just the nick of time, he's shouting and cheering him on, and he takes up the mantle of Falcon when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America, which might be what they might be hinting at here. That's probably they're introducing someone new to kind of force Sam out of his position in a way. In the comics at least. So I think they might as well bring it into the MCU. They have nothing to lose.
Yeah. And the fact that he's here, I wonder if this because I think the big question that was established at the beginning, the cinematic question is Sam going to take up the mantle of Captain America? We don't know if he's going to decide at the end, kind of stick with yes, Captain America is Steve. Steve needs to stay that way, and I'm fine with that because I'm my own hero. Or if he is going to accept himself as worthy of the mantle. But the fact that we have Joaquin Torres in here makes me wonder that at the end Sam's going to put down the Falcon mantle and become Cap. That the fight sequence ends, and we go to this lovely little outdoor dining space in Tunisia where Joaquin and Sam kind of have a conversation to kind of introduce their relationship a little bit, but more importantly to be a big ol' exposition bomb about what we're going to be looking for further in the series.
We find out who our semi-villains are for not only the episode but the series through, I guess, a Snapchat filter.
Uh, yeah, it's yeah. A lot of movements in the world right now do kind of use that augmented reality tech to kind of put markers, and it's been used a lot for protests. So that is something that does make sense for that being here. But essentially, there's this little handprint that is this augmented reality that you can see through the phone lens. And that's kind of how they explain it's this group, the Flag Smashers. They liked it when the blip happened. That's kind of that's what we're told about them.
He also looks like the same design as Space Ghost.
So the Flag Smashers, their big thing is that they want they believe in no borders. They want total open borders, the just dissolvement of countries, and yeah, they're
They
kind of
liked it when the blip was a thing.
because I guess probably the explanation that we can get is probably in that time countries were a little bit more open with each other just because everybody was hurting, and there's just so few little more people. Maybe. Well, I have a feeling in the show. I think the show is really going to go kind of into the greater politics and problems and things that were maybe good and things that were awful about when the blip happened. And I love getting to see that kind of side of things. Just the look at the world when all these people were missing and what happened and what problems were there. How did we have to solve them? What problems came back when everybody just appeared, which the show is starting to get into. But Flag Smasher is not an organization in the comics, but actually just a villain who is
looks a lot like Space Ghost.
yeah, he runs a radio show, a late night kind of Yeah. But it's kind of his same deal in the comics. So he's not a man, but an organization in this go around of it. I wonder if he is gonna be. I wonder, or he might just be the leader of the organization.
Probably. He's Captain Flag Smasher.
Yeah. The other big conversation that we have is Joaquin Torres and Sam talking about what happened to Steve. Joaquin kind of breaks the subject, and it's like, is he on a base in the moon? That's kind of a big conspiracy, but you might know. And Sam's like, nah, bruh. But doesn't tell him what happened. And when he finally goes to leave, Sam tells him that he has to deal with moon stuff, kind of as a hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I'm doing a Captain America thing, which is funny because he's not.
Uh, not really. No, this is a pretty, basic scene.
We cut to Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian in the Captain America Museum. It looks like a funeral almost. And Sam is having this big old speech about how this shield is the symbol of a great hero, but who's the symbol without the person behind it? Who's Steve? And like, meanwhile, it's a Smithsonian exhibit about Steve Rogers. So there's just big old pictures of his face everywhere, looking heroic as Captain America, kind of looking down on Sam. It's definitely he's literally in the shadow of Captain America in this moment. And he is announcing that he is donating the Captain America shield to the Smithsonian because that's where it belongs, not with him. Also, we see that Rhodey is in this memorial, not a
Rhodey!
memorial donation ceremony audience.
Love that little tidbit. I love the relationship with Sam and Rhodes because it was rocky. They were both on opposite sides in Civil War, and obviously the stuff that Sam was the reason that Rhodes ended up falling and becoming paralyzed. And thankfully Tony was able to help with that, but he never held it against Sam, and he was the one who was looking for Sam when the first snap happened, and he was probably there when they all blipped back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I appreciate this scene. I appreciate their relationship. It really shows how great of a friend Rhodes is and was to Tony, and just now continues to be to everyone else. It was very wholesome.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into uh Rhodey takes Sam aside and they kind of walk through the Captain America exhibit where they get into some of the Bucky exhibit stuff. And Rhodey kind of confronts Sam about why didn't you take up the mantle when it was offered to you?
So the scene is just basically them walking around and talking. You obviously see pictures of Bucky and images of like circles with the Shield logo and Hydra and the Winter Soldier's logo. So it's kind of setting us up for what we're going to be seeing. And it ends with both of them looking up at, the shield that is on a pedestal next to Captain America's suit. And it's in this box and it's something that he can't touch. And it's something that he'll always be looking up to, but never like fully being able to be. It's a lot. It's heavy on the symbolism. Obviously, the shield is encased in a square, like the Tesseract. So we're getting some Infinity Stones in here.
Yeah. And yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so just when you think there's it's it hold on. So just when you think the show is more the Falcon as well as the Winter Soldier, not and yet. We haven't gotten much into the Winter Soldier until now.
We cut to it's we cut to a hotel, which it is a flashback of one of Bucky's previous murders of the Winter Soldier. He kills someone who he was sent out to kill, but there is a witness and he kills the witness. Uh, that was kind of the basic of the scene. One thing that really stood out to me in it though is, or not the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it is the first shot you see in this hotel is the roof, and you can see Bucky's shadow, Winter Soldier shadow, just walk off the roof. It's so ominous and just such a cool little detail. So we see as the hotel elevators open up, we see a group of people being like, "Yeah, we're gonna go do this thing," and this guy's like, "Oh, that's okay. I'll meet you in the room." And they go. He goes their separate way, and that's when Bucky busts through a painting. He takes out some bodyguards that just so happen to be walking by, and yeah, he just kind of sweeps everywhere throughout this hotel. Just it's a slaughter. He kills the guy he's supposed to, and then we see the guy who stayed behind, desperately trying to leave the room, and then Bucky kills him.
Poor guy.
Also, can we talk about the fact that Winter Soldier said "Hail Hydra" to the guy right before he killed him?
Yeah. And that's that's why I think Hydra's gonna be they're gonna be bringing Hydra back. I think they're going full circle again and
Makes
tying up because
sense.
even with Captain America Winter Soldier, we didn't really tie up all the Hydra stuff. So I think there was still a lot because I think they planted some more seeds even within that movie. But it's so we'll talk more about the Hydra stuff in this episode later. But this scene, obviously loved it. Loved getting back to long hair Bucky and how cool he was. Well, not cool. He was murdering people. That's not cool.
In a cool way.
In a cool way. But it also just it's sad because you've come to know Bucky at this point as the good guy. So seeing him back in his Winter Soldier days kind of keeps bringing you back into this like uneasy feeling of, is he a good guy? Yes or no? Because this was brutal. He had absolutely no remorse killing this poor witness.
Yeah.
As he was brainwashed as Bucky, and then you realize that he wakes up in present day. He's got short hair.
Another cool detail of so he shoots up, wakes up. It was
And
a
it's all
nightmare. It was a really kind of good throwback because if you see, he's sleeping on the floor, and
Mhm.
when Sam and Cap first meet each other, what kind of the bonding that they have is Sam asked Cap if it sucks sleeping on a bed now because when he got back from service, uh, it just felt like sleeping on a marshmallow, and that's kind of the thing that bonds them as two soldiers. So now we
Yeah.
have Sam share that same connection that those two had.
No, that's absolutely a good point. I was wondering why he wasn't in a room. It all makes sense. So now we're getting into Bucky and his inner turmoil. It leads into him going to his therapist. And I love this scene. He's so sassy and snarky.
Can we also talk about the very heavy symbolism? So Bucky's in therapy, but the wall behind him is just a big old painting of like trees that are
Mhm.
coming into bloom for the springtime. It's
Yep.
the Winter Soldier going into spring.
He's
Ma-ba-da.
becoming the spring soldier
Uh,
with a little flower crown.
can we also talk about throughout this whole therapist scene, before we go into the content of it, the main shots that they had was just this extreme deep focus close up on Bucky's face and this
Mhm.
extreme, like, and when I say like deep focus, I mean like maybe their nose would be in focus, like a different part of their head would be in focus depending on the subtle way they moved it. Like it was a very close shot of their faces talking back and forth to each other.
Mhm.
It
No, it was beautifully shot. I really, really appreciated the cinematography in
hmm.
this scene in particular, but most likely with the rest of it.
So the very first thing that they talk about is the therapist asked if Bucky had any if he's still having nightmares, and Bucky's like, no. And the therapist, I like how the therapist is absolutely done with Bucky's
I
BS.
yeah, I was watching this scene and I was like, "Is this what therapy is? Can you say that to a therapist? Is this legal?" Like he calls her out on her BS and she calls him out on his. And I'm like, "Okay. Okay, this is absolutely what he needs. He needs to be
Hmm.
taken down a notch cuz he's being a brooding emo boy and he needs a stern woman to be like, okay. You're being a little too dramatic."
Yeah. And Bucky does make a good kind of point about why he is being so snippy is that for the past 90 years, he's been the Winter Soldier. He's been waking up to go kill someone and then putting back to sleep, and it's been fight after fight, and that he had a brief moment of peace in Wakanda, and that's been it.
I love so another part is him trying to find that peace now in present day, and he's doing that by trying to make amends with that's essentially what his therapist has been telling him to do, is to make a list and go down the list and make essentially amends with people. And he needs to always follow these 3 rules every time he's about to, every time he's going to make amends with someone. And that is, it has to be something legal. They cannot get hurt. And in the end, he has to say that he is no longer the Winter Soldier, and he's here to make amends, and his name is James Buchanan Barnes. The funny part is that he's saying that he's doing all these things correctly, but it parallels to what actually happened. And yeah, he didn't do something illegal like hijack a woman's car personally, but he did place a device to do that for him. And he didn't harm her? Sure. But
he explains that there's this woman, she's a congresswoman, she's a Hydra pawn, he helped her get into power, she's still in power, so he went to fix that with in non-violent ways, of course, obviously.
just scaring the spit out of her.
Yeah. He puts a recording device and something to control the car in this woman's car. He records a Hydra thing and it's like, aha, I got her, and like locks the car and drives the car away. He approaches the car and they're like, oh my God, it's the Winter Soldier. And he knocks out the guy that's in the car with her, and she's terrified. And that's when they go into the third world of, he has to say, hello, I am no longer the Winter Soldier, but my name is James Buchanan Barnes, and I'm here to make amends. That was such a funny moment.
Yes, I'm killing you as James.
I'm James Buchanan Barnes, and you're part of my efforts to make amends. Also, I think it's kind of cool that Bucky has a list of things to fix the past as he's adapting into the real world. And Steve, when he was in the same situation, he had a list of things to look forward to in the future. We also get a little glimpse of this list and some of the names on the list. Something Zemo is on the list.
Oh, hey
yeah.
now.
Yeah, Zemo's name is on the list to make amends with.
Wow.
I'll send you guys the screenshot, but it's right there. Also,
right.
another fun Easter egg is the name Halsner. I wanted to call him Bucky because that's just his character name. Sebastian Stan in I, Tonya. He was in I, Tonya, and one of the actors that he starred with was it was it was Paul Hausner.
Oh, you're right. Zemo is in here, except it's an H. Zemo. Oh, you're totally right. You're correct, Amundo. Wow. There it is. There it be.
Yeah. So after that, the therapist kind of like calls him out for not making any friends and isolating himself. And when Bucky's like, "Oh, but I have to," she's like, "That's bullshit." And he's like, "That you're a terrible therapist." And she's like, "I was a great soldier, though. I know what this is, and you shouldn't be alone right now." Just the real talk that he needs.
He needs, and it comes from, he needs someone to tell him what to do when it's coming from a place of like caring. She's not doing it to be mean.
Although I feel like because she took his cell phone from him just to go through the contacts, and he's like, you have no text messages, you have less than 10 people on your phone, and the only person you've called is me. Like that's really sad, dude.
Poor Bucky.
Because we're going to be getting Marvel What If being the What If series of all this stuff. I want Marvel What If that is just this therapist giving the much needed therapy to all these different super powered characters that just prevents everything.
Honestly, that's upsetting. They don't have mental health insurance for superheroes. Are you joking? The whole plot of Iron Man 3 was him suffering from PTSD. Are you saying his insurance didn't cover therapy?
We follow Bucky out of therapy having just been told that he needs to make more friends. And we got to, I think it's New York City. He's walking down the street. He sees this old man arguing with this guy about trash. That this young guy put his trash can in this old man's trash can, and this old man's about to throw hands with this dude, and kind of comes in there to break up the thing, and he accompanies the old man to get some food. They kind of with their relationship, they know each other, they're familiar with each other. He calls him Izzy. And so
You know what
it,
I
it
love?
it goes against what the therapist was saying. He does have a friend, and it is this old man.
But you know what I think is so funny about this is the fact that it's because they're both old men.
Hmm.
As Bucky will, yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was for a moment there. I thought it was going to be oh god, it was
from Captain America, his
yeah,
friend, who
his
ended up being the principal in Spider-Man.
yeah. I
Mhm.
thought it was just gonna be, oh,
I thought
he's
so
still
too, and then I looked him
alive.
up.
Like he blipped, and so that's how he's still alive right now. Uh, which how funny would that be?
It would be.
If like
It would be
Bucky
funny.
no, he does have a friend, and it's his old war buddy who still happens to be alive.
So you find out after they go to lunch and talk a little bit. You get more of this old guy's backstory, and then you start to piece stuff together and start to realize why Bucky's hanging out with him.
Yeah.
It's not just because he's an old man that Bucky can relate to and have a lot in common with. But, we'll find out later. For now, we just get a little tiny sob story from this old man.
Yeah, the old man says that his son was died, and he never found out why, and no one will tell him. And Bucky looks remorseful, and kind of it's pretty easy to put the two and two together of that the guy that we saw, the witness that we saw Bucky murder uh in the flashback is this guy's kid. The sushi server, she's also kind of talking with them, and the old man is like, "Hey, you want to go on a date with this guy?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll go on a date with this guy." And Bucky's like, "Yeah."
Because who wouldn't go on a date with Sebastian Stan?
Yeah. And that's kind of the main things that we get in the scene. We get a little bit of his relationship with this old man, a hint at why he's really there, and Bucky gets a date. Our boy.
Our poor, not so lonely boy finally gets some semblance of hope.
Yeah. So it's Sam going back home. It's Louisiana. He's with kind of the whole family, but most importantly, his cousins or his sister and his nephews. And they kind of have a back and forth. It's again a lot of exposition and what to be expecting in the show, what some of the problems are going to be, and they're kind of have a back and forth where she's clearly mad about him going off and being a soldier and a hero, and he's mad because she has to sell the boat. We find out it's his houseboat, and that it is their childhood home, and that she has to sell it in order to keep the business afloat. Again, kind of more exposition giving us the stakes. And of course, he's not for it because it's his childhood home, it's his legacy. That's it kind of reflects again more of what Sam's character deal throughout the show is going to be, is not wanting to let things change, not wanting to let go of a legacy, and so forth and so forth, and not really being adjusting into this changed world that he blipped back into.
Mm-hmm. I think that's interesting that you're drawing those parallels of changing a legacy, because that's exactly what's happening to him on multiple levels with him inheriting captain's title. Stuff is changing. It's hard for him to cope with. And now his childhood home is being sold because he wasn't there the past 5 years and his
Hmm.
sister was. And now they're dealing with the fact that she's 5 years older. I don't know how much younger she was than him, but now she might be his older sister, depending on blip timeline and how that works.
Yeah, that would.
But what I love about these shows that you don't get into in like that much into in the cinematic universe is the fact that these superheroes do have lives outside of saving the world. And now that we get to see these real struggles, these real relatable struggles that a lot of people can relate to, is awesome. I love that they're bringing that into this fantastical superhero world.
Yeah, and to get to see Sam's background and where to be able to get that backstory about who he was as a character, what his family life was like, and really kind of get this deep dive into who he is. And he eventually does convince his sister to I will help you. We're going to save the home. You're not going to have to sell it and it's going to be fine. I'm the Falcon. So I think it's also kind of interesting that he does not want to be anywhere near the Captain America title, but he is more than happy to embrace Falcon and brag about being the Falcon. He is the Falcon. And that's something that he's very proud of. So even though he doesn't think he's worthy of this legacy, it's not that he doesn't think he's worthy of being a hero.
As Cap, at least. He thinks he can be a hero as Falcon, and he thinks that Falcon is going to be enough to get him by for the rest of his life, and that's not the case. He does have to change and he has to adapt, because what happens later with this loan and whatnot just really kind of puts everything that he's been going through back into perspective.
Yeah. So before we get to the loan, we do cut back to Bucky and his date. He shows up back at the empty sushi restaurant. He has a kind of an argument with one of those swinging hand cats. He brings her flowers and she's like, "Oh my god, that's so old fashioned." Haha, because it is, because he's an old man.
I love the old jokes that they make, and they're like, Bucky laughs them away, but obviously it's the reference to the fact that he's a crotchety old man with a bad arm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So throughout the date, they kind of have a get to know you game, and also they play Battleship. She says that she keeps board games around for when it's slow in the sushi restaurant. I think Battleship is such a hilarious game for them to be playing. Also,
Yes, it is. It's one of the simplest war themed games.
yeah.
I know. Poor Bucky really just can't get away from war. He just wants a peaceful life. He doesn't want to fight anymore.
So the three main notes that this date conversation that they have is they connect a little bit. She kind of teases him for seeming old, like talking like her dad and all this stuff. But she seems to be kind of into him. They ask each other about their families. He tells her that I was close with my folks, but they died, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." And then she brings up the old man that they've been hanging out with, or that he's been hanging out with, and is like, "Oh my god, but thank you so much for hanging out with him." And has a speech about how if you are you lose your spouse, you're a widow. If you're a kid who loses your parents, you're an orphan. But there's no word for a parent who loses a child, because it's just so awful that we can't even name it. And Bucky quickly leaves the date with a lot of guilt. And from that, he goes to the old man's apartment, where the old man opens the door, and we do in fact see a shrine set up for the kid that Bucky killed, who witnessed the murder from when he was the Winter Soldier, confirming that is indeed why he is making friends with this man. This is another part to make amends.
Which is just brutal and heartbreaking. Because you can tell in that scene when he goes and sees him, you can tell that he wishes everything could have been different.
Mm-hmm.
He almost wishes that he could have switched places with him, so this man would have his son back. It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And instead of crossing a name out for this, he actually circles the man's name, which I thought was poignant. So because it shows that he does have a difference between amending things in a revenge sort of way and amending things in a condoling sort of way.
Kind of on that note, because in the notebook that we see, it's 2 pages. People on one side, or just 2 pages, both with names. The name that he crossed out when he dealt with the senator, that was on the left page. it was the top name on the left page. The name that he circled on the right page, it was the top name on the right page. So I wonder if that's how it's organized, and if it's people who are villains who I'm dealing with at the Winter Soldier versus victims who I need to make amends with. That also, Zemo's name being on that list, it is on the same side as the senator. So maybe that's just two different categories for this.
Yeah, I think he definitely isn't out to make amends with everyone the same way.
Mm-hmm. I think that's going to mean different things for different people. Uh, and what a really interesting story path for the Winter Soldier. I almost wonder if just throughout the series we're going to get to see a lot more of that, of just Bucky making his way through the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the list is going to be just like it was in Winter Soldier with Captain America and Steve crossing out stuff and adding to the list. The list is going to be very important to him because it also parallels the ledger that was used to brainwash him as the Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
with all those code words, which actually little thing they do make an appearance at the end during the credits. So I wonder if that tactic is going to be used on him again at all.
That explains why Zemo is on that list. If he's kind of taking care of making amends, unfinished business as the Winter Soldier, that guy has the code to turn him into the Winter Soldier.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah. From there, that's when we cut to, it is a very brief scene of Falcon and his sister being like, all right, talking to his nephews, being like, all right, you guys are going to stay with grandma while we go to the bank and get this loan and save the family. And that's the scene. Sam has a nice line about, there's no such thing as being on time. You're either early or late, but so you got to pick one. But yeah, it's just a exposition scene kind of to guide us into the next part of Sam's journey.
It also shows just the importance of family, like how important family is to Sam. And I mean, I'm sure again, this is post Endgame by not that much.
Yeah.
It has not been that long. I mean, of course, it seems like 5 lifetimes since Endgame came out, but it has not been that long in their universe. And they're still dealing with everything. And it's just so sad to see Sam in this bright house. Everything with Sam is lit very warmly, very bright. He's surrounded by people constantly. And then you go to Bucky's scenes and they're always in this blue tone and he's always alone. And they do really good job visually telling you and showing you where these people are and how much they need each other. Because, again, it's Falcon as well as the Winter Soldier right now. They're not together. They haven't teamed up yet. So I'm excited to bring those two worlds together. And hopefully, I'm pretty sure Bucky is going to gain, a family out of this.
Hope so.
And he deserves it.
And then we cut to back to Joaquin Torres. He is following through on the Flagstaff stuff that he has been investigating. He's back to where he saw the augmented reality handprint. He sees some other people kind of joining, also looking for the handprint, and is like, do you guys know what we're supposed to be doing? Yeah, the Flag Smasher stuff. Something, I don't know if this is the reference that they're doing for it, because basically what happens is that all these people know where to show up because that's where the augmented reality thing is, and then it just start to cause a lot of chaos. Masks are handed out to all of them, and but that's how you know where to go. It's not necessarily an official membership where things are sent out to you. You kind of have to find out where it is and be there. This girl starts passing out a bunch of masks. He puts on a mask and is still like, what are we supposed to be doing? And then the window breaks and 2 duffel bags come out of the window and everyone starts running around and he just gets like the biggest deer in the headlight look on his face. Like, oh boy, I'm not supposed to be here.
This scene was intense. They obviously rob a bank. So it's funny that these Flag Smashers are, robbing a bank. It's not something that, it's not in line with their MO. You're like, wait, if they're supposed to be smashing flags, why are they robbing banks? But the chaos in this scene is really awesome. I love that they have these people wearing masks to obviously confuse everyone. They're
Uh,
probably stealing this money for their own operations. Don't know if it's to, keep funding their operations or if they're looking at getting some more like illegal contraband type of help with that money in terms of like making, getting more of that super soldier serum.
yeah. I also do wonder if it's a little bit of, their whole thing is world without borders, getting rid of oppressive institutions, um, financially, kind of disrupting that through a bank. That I guess that makes sense. Yeah, Joaquin, he sees the guy who like stole the money, and he runs after him and like reveals himself as the narc and is like, "You're under arrest!" And then the guy beats the crap out of him, but like not regularly. He's very clearly revealed to have some super strength going on, and
Yeah,
whether
he flings a guy into a lamppost.
um
Boom.
for a brief moment, I thought they were gonna kill him. I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, I was also scared for him because I was like, no, you can't just introduce this guy and then immediately have his head stomped in.
Mhm.
But luckily they didn't do that. um, but he gets pummeled and basically left for dead on the street, and we don't know what's happening with him. Uh-oh.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of a cool look at this villainous organization, kind of what they do, kind of what their MO is. I'm super excited to see more of them. I think they're really cool. I think Joaquin is a terrible at his job from what I've seen. Like, I'm sorry. It's you're trying to get information on these guys. You're gonna go after one of them and just rip off and just reveal to all of them that you're a narc.
I know. I was like, ooh, bad form, Joaquin.
They're gonna be looking for that now. It's way to be.
And they didn't kill him, which makes me wonder if, yeah, he's going to be a target. If they're going to, because they've seen his face, they might have something else of his.
Yeah, we like him. He's not the smartest, but
So after that, not knowing whether Agent Torres is fine or not, we jump back to Sam Wilson and his sister at the bank trying to get the loan. This scene is so interesting because it mirrors the endgame scene where the kids come up and get a selfie with Hulk. And, it's just, it reinforces the superhero culture of like, these are celebrities, but when it comes to treating them like people, that's where, they get weird about it. Because here Sam is not as the Falcon, not in costume. He's just trying to get a loan.
yeah. I thought it was really because this guy he doesn't even recognize him as Falcon immediately. He's just kind of like looking at him like his first fall was LSU football, and Sam's like, no, but I bet you'll get it, because he knows that he's about to be recognized. And eventually he figures it out that he's Falcon, and Sam's like totally like, haha, yeah, this everything's gonna work for me. They take a selfie together, and the guy asks him how the Avengers get paid. And that's when it is revealed that they're not going to be getting the loan. That they Sam can't get the loan because he has no finances for the past 5 years because he hasn't existed.
Mhm.
And this guy's like, "You guys, Stark wasn't paying you. You guys don't have like a funds or anything." Uh, and it's just kind of, it's really uncomfortable. Uh, and it reveals another kind of problem that happened post blips is that now that half the population has suddenly appeared back, that it's financially it's kind of hard to get loans out to people. That it's really put a strain on this financial system, which kind of falls back to the flag smashers, who were saying that everything was better before the blip, that they're not for countries, they're not for institutions. But now we're kind of seeing another example of that problem of now that the financial kind of system that it's place, it is crumbling under, there's this huge institutional failure with the current financial system that um it they because Sam even says that like there's no way that we shouldn't qualify for this loan. And the banker's like, well, that was before 5 years ago.
So no, this is sad. Obviously they go back completely dejected and get into a little fight because he's not wanting to give up on this. He said he's going to go to every bank until they find one that can give them a loan. And his sister's just tired. She's been trying to deal with this stuff for the past 5 years, and now things have changed completely again, and that's another thing she has to deal with, and it's very, very tiring for her.
So they don't get approved for the loan. We see Sam kind of brooding about it on the boat. And then we cut to him getting a call from Joaquin Torres, where Joaquin kind of tells him everything that went down. Sam's like, wow, you look like you got the beat out of you. And he's like, that's because I did. And then they have this whole moment of mentioning that they have strength. And then Sam is like, oh, you don't think it might be. And Joaquin is like, maybe. And then Sam's like, keep me posted, during the purposeful, we're not getting you information. Now, what is it that they think it might be? We don't know yet. However, I think
Yes, we
it might.
do. Yes,
Well,
we do. It's
it's
Mephisto.
Mephisto. You cut me off on my joke. I was about to say the same joke.
Great minds think alike.
But it's Mephisto, guys. We didn't get him in WandaVision. And I think it's further than that. It's going to come back around to that banker because, as we all know, banking and financial institutions are the devil. That guy sucked. There's something really weird about him. So, show solved, guys. So they purposely don't say what it is, and then Sam's sister peeks her head in the room and is like, "Oh my God, Sam, you have to see this." And Sam's like, "Oh, what do I need to see?" And then we cut to a TV news conference with it's the guy who's took Ross's place back at the as the head of Homeland Security. He's also the guy that Sam gave the shield to, and is like, you made the right decision about donating this to the Smithsonian. But it turns out that's not what he wanted for, because he comes up on TV and he's like, we live in hard times and we need new heroes. So everybody, I want to introduce you to the new Captain America. And some guy walks out with the audacity to
How
dress as
dare.
Captain America with the shield.
This guy,
He's a
this
very punchable
general
face, too.
white bread U.S. agent,
Yeah.
he absolutely has a very punchable face, because he stands there, he waves, he carries the shield that he doesn't deserve, and he just smiles at everyone. Like, what a jerk. I'm super excited to get I'm excited for him to get his butt whooped, because that will happen.
Yeah, this Captain America has a gun. Hate that.
Oh my God, he does. Wow, big wow.
The guy who is our fake Captain America, our very punchable face guy, he is a man named Jonathan Walker. Jonathan Walker is a character in the show. Not the character in the show. Well, obviously he's a character in the show, but he's more than that, a character in the comics, where his goal is to take Captain America's spot. He's like this super conservative jerk guy, and his current alias is U.S. Agent.
How boring.
It's boring and ominous, and just it represents everything.
He sounds like a douche.
I really hope that we get to see multiple people punch his stupid face.
I'm excited for that. You see, like, the double Cap battle was fun in Endgame. This is more of like a beat this guy down, not a don't hurt yourself, Cap. Do you think he is superpowered like him? Or do you think he's overcompensating and that's why he has to carry a gun?
I think it might be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So we saw with the Flag Smasher guys that one of them had super strength. The big theory for that right now is super soldiers, which would make sense because it's Bucky or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Cap was a super soldier. Bucky was a super soldier. It would not surprise me if he has something similar going on with that. If he is super powered in some way, experimented on, maybe not to the extent of Cap, but he might have some power going for him.
Well, for now,
I feel like he'd have to though, right? Like you can't he could just be a show figure. He might just be how Captain America was originally, where he was a propaganda tool, which also would make sense. And it'd be so slimy if they did that to him. I mean, it's slimy that they did that to him anyway.
yeah.
Me and my partner were so livid when we saw that happening. We were just both like, "What? Who did this?"
How dare.
It's a great plot point. We're not mad at the show. We're mad. We're mad for Steve, and we're mad for Sam, and we're mad for Bucky, and we're mad for everybody.
I bet Steve's like, what is this? What is this?
Is Steve still alive?
He's on the moon. I don't know, because at first I was thinking that the first scene with Cap or with Steve and the Shield was him getting ready for like a funeral, but now it could just be he was getting ready for that press conference to hand the Shield to the Smithsonian. So I think Steve might still be alive. I'm not sure if that is going to be important enough to make an appearance in this show. Maybe a cameo. Maybe at the end they'll give us some Luke Skywalker type thing, which I wouldn't be too bummed out with. Maybe Steve is Mephisto. That works.
Yeah,
I think so. I think we're gonna see by the end. I think the big bad is not gonna be Flag Smasher. It's in fact gonna be Mephisto.
I believe that.
Joking, of course. Hopefully, we don't have to make that too clear.
Of course not, you mean.
But I mean, how fun would it be if that was true? We'd be back here eating our words.
I would laugh so hard.
But that takes us to the end of the pilot. We don't have a credit scene for this, but who knows? Maybe in a couple more episodes we'll be getting some more credit scenes.
Oh, just one more thing I wanted to mention about the freaking new Cap scene is, while Sam is watching this is the first time that his sister looks at him and doesn't look all pissed off at him, and like seems to like empathize with what he's seeing. And it almost makes me wonder, of despite kind of the tension that they've been having before, is if she knows that he was offered the mantle of Captain America and he turned it down.
I think he might. I think she might. Because it's something that as soon as he got back, he obviously would have talked to her.
Yeah.
And it seems to have taken place, obviously, after the events of the end of Endgame. So after Cap came to him as an old man. So he probably, as soon as he got reconnected with his sister, was like, hey, so this is what happened. We might get a flashback, honestly, later on in these episodes. We might get a flashback to that first conversation. And maybe we might get to hear what she has to say about how worthy she thinks her brother is.
Yeah, I would really like that, because she's a character that I'm really interested in so far. I really like that actress is fantastic. And it's always kind of fun to see the kind of more at home, real world problems that these characters face and have to deal with. So I love that we're getting that from that, and I love her in that role.
I'm excited to see more. So one thing I want to bring up in the credits before we wrap this breakdown up is the fact that they mention the Thunderbolts briefly in like a newspaper clipping. Now the Thunderbolts is basically what?
Like an off-brand Avengers.
Brand version of the Avengers?
Yeah, they're kind of they're a more controllable, more in-line Avengers.
Because the Sokovia Accords was about bringing these heroes under the government's eye, and like the government signs off on what they can and cannot do. They are basically pawn for the government, and that was the whole event and conflict with Civil War. Now it just kind of sucks because it seems like he just went off and did his own thing anyway. So I'm excited to see this kind of B-list version of the Avengers they seem to have going on in the works. I don't know if we're just going to be seeing US Agent, or if we're going to be seeing maybe some other technology that they've gotten, that they've collected from other heroes to kind of make their own type of weapons, a la, if we're going back to our Haywardness, talking about
Yeah.
Hayward, how Hayward took Vision and made him into a weapon. And, we're talking about, Armor Wars is a show that's going to be on Disney Plus, and we're going to be seeing more of Justin Hammer and his dealings with this. So maybe we might get some stuff dropped. I mean, Rhodes is already in Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's probably going to be a part of Armor Wars. That would absolutely make sense. So it's like, I think they're planting some more seeds that will later just continue to be revealed, as Marvel usually does.
Yeah, I totally believe that. It would not surprise, because as you mentioned before, Hayward's whole deal was trying to reanimate the Vision to get that weapon back. And so it maybe WandaVision and this might be setting up maybe some sort of big bad that they're going to have to face in the future that is just the government superhero team and how they have built that, and having to be on that wrong side of the law, quote unquote, to stop them.
Well, whatever it is, I'm excited to watch.
Mhm.
So tune in to our next episode as we continue going through this great new Marvel show.
Tell us what you thought of the episode 1 in the comments, or send us an email at sirensdenpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Ty, our producer, and to Sean Thomas at fuzzstudio.com for our theme song.
As always, we'll catch you next time.
Bye!
Bye!